Hello again. This week we're going to continue to look at John 20:19 to 23 and what I've called a tale of three churches. Last week, if you remember, we visited Locked Doors Fellowship. The disciples were all together, but because of the fear that they had, they'd locked the doors. But then something remarkable happens, something that they'd not expected. Jesus came and he stood amongst them in that room. And he said this to them. He said, "Peace be with you." So welcome this morning to our second church, Living Peace Church. You see, when Jesus comes, he is the Prince of Peace. And peace is established in this place. Instantly we see that the whole atmosphere changes. In verse 20 we read, "The disciples were overjoyed." So you see, the disciples had moved from complete fear, complete anxiety for what the Jews might do, where they'd locked the doors. And now they've moved from that place to being completely overjoyed. I can only imagine what happens next. There's worship and there's adoration. They love it and they're thrilled that Jesus has turned up at their meeting. Suddenly for them there is hope again. Living Peace Church is the church that most of us want to join. We see the wonderful presence of Jesus. We see that Jesus is at work. So when we join Living Peace Church, where Jesus is at the centre, where Jesus is the focus, do you know, he begins to answer prayers. He begins to bless us. He begins to minister to us in ways that we'd not imagined before. He begins to help us. And you know, when Jesus turns up in Living Peace Church, we feel much, much better. Whatever might have been going on in their lives before, even if we still maybe are struggling a little bit with certain things, when Jesus turns up, he brings peace. A peace that the Bible describes as beyond our understanding. They loved his presence. Of course they did. I can imagine them saying, "Come on, Jesus, come and just be with us. Just come and spend the night with us. We need you here. We love your presence. It's so wonderful." And then Jesus perhaps showing them his hands, the marks that the nails had left because he died for them. How he paid the price. But now, after the tragic scene of the crucifixion, he's back from the dead. And they're praising him. They're amazed. "Oh, beautiful Saviour, wonderful Lord." And joy breaks out in this place. And you know, I reckon if they'd have had a guitar, they'd have probably started to sing a few worship songs. Maybe this peace that Jesus brings is something that maybe you've not experienced before. Or maybe it's a place where you just find yourself with life is just feeling a bit difficult at the moment. And let's face it, it does for a lot of us, particularly in these cold winter months. Perhaps now is a good time to just pause the video, to stop for a little while and ask Jesus to come and allow you right now to experience something of the peace that he brings. The peace we all so desperately need. So our second church is Living Peace Church. And who wouldn't want to go to a church like that? But whilst this is all great, and Jesus' presence among us brings us peace, the problem with Living Peace Church is that we can like it so much that we never want to do anything else. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel nice. It's wonderful, the presence of the Lord, and I love it. So we can say to ourselves, well, let's just keep on worshipping. Let's just keep on enjoying Jesus and his presence. Let's keep on being blessed by him. And in the end, this can lead to a very unbalanced fellowship that simply exists to be together, that simply exists to experience the presence of Christ, because I like it so much. It's nice to have Jesus here. It's nice to have friends around me, friends who love worshipping Jesus just like I do. Nice, cleaned up Christians who don't cause any problems. It's just so nice here. I think I'll stay here for a while. But as I've found through my Christian life and as I've journeyed with Christ over many, many years, with God there's always more. And next week, we're going to consider our next church as we move from Locked Doors Fellowship, a place of fear, a place of struggle, to then Living Peace Church, a place of joy because of Jesus' presence. Next time, we're going to consider why Jesus came in the first place and why he would choose us, why he would choose to make himself known to us. Yes, when he does, it brings peace, but there is so much more. Hopefully you'll join me again next week as we look at our final church and what I believe is the church that we should all aspire to. Have a great week.